Hey, I just finished up the Social Media for Composers Masterclass live stream. It was a hoot. We talked about all about content creation, social media strategy. We broke down some of my reels and so much more. Anyway, I'm attaching the VOD to the end of this intro. I hope you enjoy and feel free to leave a comment if there's any questions. Hey guys, welcome to the Social Media for Composers Masterclass. My name is Joe Chris, and I'm really excited to chat about this with you guys today. First off, happy National Hot Dog Day to all those who celebrate. And yeah, so this masterclass is me sharing all of the information that I can that I usually give out repeatedly to people who ask me to help them with some of their social media stuff. I love social media, and I think there's such a huge potential for composers to do well on there and grow their business and grow their career. But I think a lot of composers struggle, and we'll get to that in the PowerPoint, in the slideshow presentation. But in the meantime, I did link some articles that I've written and some of my reels in the description below. If you want to check those out, they will be relevant in this presentation. But I guess let's just hop into this. All right. So, social media for composers. Who am I? Well, I'm Joe Chris. I am a Berklee College of Music graduate. I graduated during 2020, which was the pandemic, and I went from having plans to move to LA to working a desk job as a security guard. I worked a desk job because it was COVID and I was a security guard in a high school. So this allowed me to read as much as I can books on content strategy, marketing, business. And from that, I built a website called scoringtech.net, which is sort of a brand name that I've been using now for this composer education stuff. And I was writing a book on information technology in the music studio, like how different systems are built, like on the hardware side of things versus the software, and how to really dial in like peak technical efficiency, which most of the book or half of the book's up on the website, scoringtech.net. But I ran it as a blog just to kind of share my progress of it. And one of my friends from school read it. He passed it along to Trevor Morris. And then I assisted for him for about 2-ish years. I was assisting for him. I assisted for Trey Toy, Andrew Morgan Smith, and a good handful of other composers. And I was doing that until the Hollywood strikes. Once the strikes started, we were still in post on a couple shows. But once that kind of ran out, we didn't have any work for me, so I had to transition. And I ended up working in the brewery industry, doing sales and doing marketing. And I worked my way up from just like a standard sales guy to being in charge of all of the marketing. That includes social, email campaigns, in-person events, etc. From I say from Montauk to Rochester, but basically the entire state of New York. I really learned a lot in that experience and the sort of B2B sales thing that was happening, which the film composer career is very much a B2B career. And I started applying it to my music business when I went back full time as a composer to help me grow. So recently I've been having some success on Instagram, which actually wasn't my plan. And I've had a lot of composers try to talk to me and ask for my help, and I'm always more than happy to help people when I can. This PowerPoint is me just sort of showing what I know, and if there's any questions, you're more than welcome to shoot me a message on Instagram. My email is joe@joechrismusic.com, or honestly, leave a comment on this video. This is going to be up as a VOD afterwards, so leave a comment and I will get back to you, and I might even make a video response to your comment. But I do have a mailing list below where I do send out all these articles that I write and all these other things only just once a month, with a lot of great information for film composers, and I give them access to my composer resource library, which these slides are going to be up as supplemental material. Anyway, why composers struggle with social media? We have it hard as composers. Our art form is not visual, and it is a time-based art form, which really is a problem when you have 2 to 3 seconds to capture someone's attention, and typically a lot of our music, especially as media composers, builds to a moment rather than starts off right away with a hook. First off, we can kind of get around that by starting at the hook, like you watch a pop song and that's how they do it. But there are things we could do besides just posting our music, and we'll get to some of that. Another challenge composers face with social media is we're not really sure of our goals. We know we should be posting, and we know that we should be doing content, and we know we should be doing things. But what are those things? Why are those things? How are we doing those things? Video production is also a road bump a lot of composers get caught up in. Oh, I need a fancy camera. I need a fancy computer machine to edit everything. When in reality, as long as you have a phone and the Instagram app or the Edits app, you can do a lot of really awesome and powerful stuff. Don't let the hurdle of technology get in your way. This one's one that I also hear a lot is the peer pressure or comparison angle, where a composer just gets depressed being on social media because their content's not as good as other people's contents, or they're watching everyone else's life and thinking like, what's wrong with mine? Well, remember, social media isn't real. You're showcasing the best parts of what you're doing. You don't have to always be doing stuff. You're not seeing the ugly sides, the boring sides. You're seeing a very curated point of view of what people want to see. But here's the other thing. You can curate your own point of view, and people will feel that way about you. It's almost like a fake it till you make it kind of thing. And it is helpful. Now, a lot of composers think that when they have to be on social media, they are chasing trends. Like they have to do like all the TikTok dances, or they just need to just make content and go mega viral. We'll talk later in the PowerPoint about why virality probably isn't the best thing for a composer, at least not in the way you might be expecting it. But if you're not making content for the right audience, it doesn't matter how good your content is or how it does if it's not helping you. Now, social media also has its own language and culture, and this is something I see people struggle with a ton. Something that would do really well on Instagram won't do exactly the same level of performance on Facebook. It won't do as well on YouTube or Twitter. Each one of these markets, each one of these platforms have their own culture to it. And TikTok is very fast, whereas like a podcast is very long form and slow. And well, you want to kind of learn what the culture is and be part of it rather than try to go against it. It'll help you so much more in the long run. Composers also sort of struggle when you say to like be authentic on Instagram. Well, they're like, who am I? What am I trying to do? And especially in a field like film composition, where you're a hired gun and you're not your quote unquote own artistic voice, you're typically working with a director for a lot of your stuff. It's very scary to figure out what you can post and what you can't post, and who shows who you are versus does this show too much of that last director's project? Like, I don't want to get typecast as a horror composer. I don't want to get typecast as a rom-com, but that's what I've been working on. And that sort of decision is something you need to figure out who you are. And that's a big thing I think a lot of composers struggle with. And I think that goes hand in hand with imposter syndrome. Look at me, for instance. I don't have a marketing degree. I've never had a college course on marketing, but I'm able to talk about it right now. I wouldn't say I'm like the end all be all expert, but there is stuff I can share with people that people do find helpful and useful. And I imagine if you're passionate about what you're talking about, even if it's not quote unquote the right way, it's helpful to somebody, and not only that, a lot of content is about sharing your journey. You're not framing yourself as the greatest person who ever existed. You're showing the journey of how you became the greatest composer or how you're working towards your goals. I think that's much more emotionally resonant. And one of the other things is a lot of composers have the wrong expectations of what they're going to get out of social media. They think every reel is going to go mega viral. They'll post maybe 9 or 10. When none of them go viral, they'll get upset and quit. It's like writing music. You need to practice. You need to learn. You need to study. You can't write 10 songs and become a mega platinum artist. You're probably going to have to write hundreds, if not thousands of songs before you're starting to get number ones consistently. And one last topic I want to cover before we move on is the idea of content. Content is not a dirty word. There are a lot of composers out there, a lot of big composers who quite frankly talk shit about composers who do stuff on social media and who make content or make educational resources for composers or courses or do anything like online that's quote unquote not composing when they could be working on their composition skills, etc. You are a business. This is marketing. This is helpful. You're also demonstrating your skills. And then not only that, when you are online and you take advantage of the ability to scale a business online, you have so much more potential to meet new and awesome collaborators that you would never meet in person. I live in New York City. This has been my attempt to get in touch with people in LA, get work with people in LA. But you know what happened? I get work with people in LA. I get work with people in Georgia, Nashville, London. I'm all over the world now, and I'm going to in-person events, yeah, but a lot of my work is coming through Instagram. You may hear the word influencer thrown around a lot as a bit of a slur as well, and you're not really being an influencer. An influencer is a job. An influencer is essentially a production company, an ad campaign with a single person as the face of it. So instead of going to like Don Draper in Mad Men and having his team work on something, you go to Joe Chris, and Joe Chris uses the business he built, his style, and his audience to sell your product. Now, a content creator is someone who just makes content. It doesn't need to be, oh, I worked with Blockbuster today to increase their video streaming platform's rentals, and I love it. Come with me as I go to the office to play ping pong. Like, no. Like, you're making content, and that makes you a content creator. And some content really is great for the world to have. It is a very powerful thing, and there's no shame in it. And I want to make sure people understand that. There's so much potential here for you as a composer, not just like financially, but just for fulfillment purposes and joy and connection. And it's really a wonderful thing to be on social media, even when the parts that come with it suck. But I think people do need to talk about the parts that also don't suck, because it's awesome. Quick little story. Like, if you were in ancient Greece trying to sell your art, you have the town square. You are making noise and trying to get people's attention. Social media is the same thing, except it's being limited to your small town in ancient Greece. You have the whole world, and something you put out today can still be relevant 10 years from now without you having to physically be pushing it and saying it. I cannot stress enough that content is not a dirty word. Being a content creator is not something you need to be afraid of or ashamed of. Anyway, let us move on from my little rant. What is your goal as a content creator? This is where people start to have problems with content creation, because there needs to be a balance between virality versus getting work or whatever you are doing. If you're posting just your personal stuff on Instagram, like, I went to the beach today with my family, I have 2 kids, and we got hot dogs, that's fine. That's totally an acceptable goal. If your other goal is to get clients, though, you may want to make stuff catered towards the people you're trying to work with. So someone like Mr. Beast, his business model is very much getting views. So he does these big publicity stunts, big outrageous events, and gets eyeballs. He's a mass market type of strategy here, virality. Because when he gets views, he gets advertisers, he gets sponsors, he gets ad money directly from his YouTube videos. As a composer, that is a possibility for you, but my guess is you're looking more to get work and to find people you want to work with. So you want to start crafting content not for virality, but for connection with these people. Another option is to make your social media your portfolio. A lot of video production companies will just post their final video on their YouTube channel and then not like push it further. But then they have a link that they're able to send to people of like, here's what I've done. It almost functions like a reel. But they're now able to have a web presence without having to be like out there grinding, grabbing stuff, blah, blah, blah. And the other side of that is, what if you just want to be in the conversation? I think that's another powerful way to think about social media. If you're a composer and you have all these friends who are filmmakers, you've gone to all these networking events, but it's time for them to start thinking about a composer before they've even started conversations. Well, if they're seeing your content every day, even if it's just you like posting a song on your story or talking about something you did, you're going to be fresh in their mind. You want these people to be thinking about you and what you can provide them before they even know that they need it. So this is why networking is so important and going to these events, because most of the time when people are making these decisions, they're not going to know you right away. You want to be known before they have to make these decisions and you're fresh on their mind. That leads into the topic of what a social network is versus social media. You ever notice that the David Fincher film is called The Social Network, yet we call everything today social media? Well, we went from being a platform where everything was about connecting and building these networks of people, connecting with people who you haven't seen in years, connecting with new people you haven't met or you just met. And now it's heavily in the media consumption space. Social networking is still a thing, and you can use it to massive effect for yourself. For instance, I DM a lot of people every day and just say, hey, can we connect? I use my podcast as a means of reaching out to bigger composers and talking to them. Most of my actual friend group in real life is me seeing someone doing something cool nearby and be like, hey, I think that was awesome. Can we grab a coffee? I'd love to chat. You can use Instagram without ever posting on it as a networking tool. And it's such a powerful way to meet people because most people are open to it as long as you approach them respectfully and like you actually add something to the conversation. Don't just say hi. But yes, social networking is a very, very powerful way to think about content and Instagram and all the different platforms you are on. Speaking of platforms, each platform has its own language and its own culture. Something that goes viral on TikTok may not go viral on YouTube. A different type of person watches TikTok than the kind of person that would watch YouTube. You only need to focus on one of these platforms. If you were a larger media company and you had a team of people to help you with all these other platforms, amazing. But in order to learn how content performs best on Instagram, performs best on YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, X, Twitter, blah, 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 that is a long time of trial and error. You can always post all the content on all the platforms, which is good. But I would really focus on crafting it for one platform in particular. Now, which platform is it that we should focus on? Instagram and YouTube, for example, I think are great spaces for filmmakers. They're visual. A lot of filmmakers are already on Instagram and YouTube. Right now we have like Curry Barker making YouTube videos. Like, YouTube is a platform where a lot of filmmakers post their shorts and they're meeting other filmmakers and they get educational content. Same with Instagram. But like in the game dev space, the common rule or the common advice I was given was Twitter, which is now X, or Blue Sky is where a lot of game developers hang out. Not to mention a like forum type space like Perspective on Facebook, but also VI Control was a big one back in the day to connect with other composers, Discord servers. How you engage with these people, I mean, where these people are or where you want to be and where you want to engage with them. So today we're going to focus a lot on Instagram, but this advice goes for all the platforms. When you are trying to figure out what to post now, you should think about who are you posting for? A lot of composers make great content aimed at other composers. They're not making great content if they're trying to get filmmakers to meet them. And there's no wrong or right way here, but depending on who you're trying to target, your content can be really great or really bad. So start thinking of the algorithm as your audience. You can have one audience here and it may do really well with that audience. But if you make content outside of that audience, it may not engage with them. And that's fine. You may need to build a separate audience. And I want to emphasize that. You want to build a separate audience. Don't chase them. When you're building an audience, you're making content specifically for an audience with your personality, your spin, and your authenticity involved in it. When you're chasing, you're just desperately hitting all the trends and trying to be forced in someone's face. And there are times to do like viral growth content like that, but you can't make it all of it because it's not interesting. Also, luck and timing are a massive factor in whether a reel goes viral. So you can't really say, hey, this reel is going to go viral, this one's not. Oh my God, it sucks because my reels aren't going viral right now. You just need to keep putting stuff out there, manage your expectations, and stop putting pressure on why didn't this post work. Instead, I recommend a lot of people to start thinking in terms of quantity, which is something you can control. When you think in terms of the quantity of the post, you're always going to get better. You always try to be 1% better with each post. But I can control if I posted 10 times this week. I can't control if any of them go viral. And I think that's a very healthy way to look at social media. It's not, am I getting the results I wanted? It's, am I doing enough? It's, am I doing enough to possibly get the results I want? Now, content. When you're crafting your content, you should think in terms of content pillars. These are the core themes you are posting about. For example, you might post about 3 things: film music, composition, and songwriting. You are building an audience with that as the expectation of what you're going to deliver. When you build that audience and that expectation, you should try to maintain most of your posts in those pillars. You can always stray from them and have some fun, but that's what people are there for. That's the show they want to see. Now, you may hear the term hook thrown around a lot. A hook is what grabs people's attention. It's what breaks the pattern. It's how they stop scrolling and decide to watch your content. This can be something visual happening on the screen. This can be text on the screen. This can be the first thing you say. There's a million different ways you can have a hook. But the thing with hooks is they're human psychology. When you find a hook that works, you can use it over and over and over again. And you could even steal other people's hooks, which leads me to the idea of outlier content. Outlier content is looking at someone's post who went viral and borrowing their structure. And typically you do this from someone in another niche. So, for example, if you saw someone who's in the running niche, they make content about runners, and they have only 10,000 followers, but they have a post that went mega viral with 1 million likes and hundreds of reshares, or thousands in this case, you can be pretty sure that whatever they did scratched something very specific on people's psyche. And you can steal that and reapply that format for your own work. Something like Taylor Swift getting 1 million views on her post, however, probably is not outlier content. She has millions of followers. It's just a standard engagement rate for her. So when you're looking at other people's content, keep that in mind. Like, if it's high performing for them, it could probably be high performing for you if you do your own twist on it. But don't go too far. You don't want to change too many variables. I'm going to skip swipe file for a second, but talk about authenticity and being who you are. When you are putting your twist on other people's content, really just do what you want to do. Don't do things that you think are trendy or going to go big. Just showcase yourself, because that's what people who are going to work with you want to see. They don't want you to pretend to be somebody. They want you to be who you are. And not only that, like, don't stress about a perfect profile. I posted a happy National Hot Dog Day to those who celebrate today, and it's just me being authentic. I'm a big hot dog guy. Well, guess what? People like hot dogs. I've had people DM me about it already and just want to say, like, hey, or chat. It's always just nice to have something to chat about. I put my letterbox up at the end of every month and just share things I've seen. It's a conversation starter. People love to reach out. People love to chat about it. Don't be afraid to make low quality content if it's showcasing you and your love for things and your experiences. So when I'm talking about a swipe file, I'm talking about a database that I maintain that has proven to work content ideas. So when I'm struggling with an idea of what to post, or when I'm generating my post for the week, I could just swipe through that and see what worked for other people and come up with my own ideas. So let's look at my swipe file really quick. So my swipe file here is, I hosted on Notion. I highly recommend Notion for everyone who does any sort of note-taking, project management, and just needs a spot for things to exist. I have the format on the left, which is kind of like the broad category. I have a URL to the reel. And then I analyzed the hook. I talked about what stopped my scroll, the emotions that it caused in me, and then different ways I could adopt. So this one, for example, this first one, it was a fan fiction musical. Someone's like, I'm writing a musical about King Arthur. here's why you should care. And they have like a giant goblet and they're toasting it and they cut straight to the DAW. Instantly, I'm like, this is ambitious. This is cool. That toast, that motion got me. It was a visual hook as they were speaking the voiceover. And then when it cut to the DAW, I'm like, oh, they're a musician, they're a composer. And I sat there just in awe. I was like, wow, this is awesome. And it doesn't even have to be a musical. It could be like, I'm running a 5K. Here's why you should care. I'm fundraising this project. Here's why you should care. And all of these are just hooks you can use. You can steal it. Think of it like a clickbaity headline, but applied to your art. And you don't need to be clickbaity with it, but you can just copy what works and what doesn't. And having this sort of database is so powerful, and I highly, highly recommend anyone who's like serious about building up their Instagram and getting involved in content creation just to go through this exercise, because you're going to learn so much. Now, speaking of that content format idea, you want to pick something that you can repeat and not have to think about every single time. So you might be showcasing your compositional process, like behind the scenes of how I compose a score. You can showcase a finished product, which in this case would be a track. Like, hey, check out this track I did for XYZ movie with you can have the DAW the piano roll going across the screen. You could do gear reviews, scoring advice for directors, whatever it is. If you could find a format that you can repeat, you find a format that's a little easier for you to do consistently than, oh my God, every day I got to wake up and think of 5 content ideas and I'm out of ideas and, I can't do that again. No. Find something and do variations on it. This sort of thing is kind of the secret, is most people aren't going to see all of your content anyway. So make the same content 18 different times, going at one topic from different angles. Each angle is going to appeal to a different type of person. Why reinvent the wheel? If it works, it works. Save yourself the stress. Don't worry about it. Just make content. And if you're not treating your Instagram like a portfolio showcase and you're treating it more like a networking device, you can go nuts with this. You're not clogging it up. And if you're worrying about people not wanting to follow you anymore, just have them not follow you. Like, if you think you're annoying them, they'll get annoyed and unfollow. Okay, they're not your audience. Don't stress about the numbers. The numbers don't mean anything. It's the engagement, and just having it out there is so much more important than, oh my God, I lost 10 followers today because I posted 3 times rather than 2. One on here is collaboration, so I do want to talk about that, because collaborating with other musicians, filmmakers, artists, or anyone in general puts you in front of their network in a much more powerful way than them putting you on their story. And I highly recommend doing collaboration posts whenever you can. Don't be excessive with it, but do it. Work with other artists. Do something cool with it. Have it mean something. Don't just like get collabed on, whatever. But yeah, so some of the bigger mistakes composers make on Instagram. First off, a lot of composers are not posting enough. They post maybe once a month, once every couple months, or if they're deciding to stick with it and do it consistently, they're not being consistent enough. In marketing, we have this thing called the rule of 7s, which means on average, it takes someone seeing your content, your message, one single message, 7 times before they even take action. Now, this could be the action of following you. This could be the action of buying something from you or hiring you. But they can't just be exposed to you one time and you expect them to be involved. You got to keep giving them more and more. So let's say you made 7 perfect reels, which is hard. 7 perfect reels is not going to go to the same person 7 times. So you need a much larger pool of stuff out there than you probably are doing. And you need to stick with it far longer than you think you need to. One of the rules of advice that I got is you should make 100 reels of one topic before you give up on that idea. First off, your first couple reels are going to suck. And secondly, you're not going to have enough data until you do at least 100 to know whether or not it's actually working. Secondly, composers are not posting content that align with their goals. If they're trying to reach filmmakers, they might be making a lot of content targeted towards composers. You want to make sure you're crafting your content for the people who you want to see your content. Your expectations might be too high and you get upset. Like, you might think every reel is going to go viral. Now, engagement rate is a good way to look at that. You should be expecting around 3 to 5% for a good or average post on Instagram. That means your total number of followers should be 3 to 5% of your total number of followers should have liked, shared, commented, or engaged with your post in some way. If you have 100 followers and you get 3 likes on a post, you're average. You're doing good. Don't beat yourself up because not everything's going mega viral. Not every post ever goes viral. There's so much luck involved. A lot of composers are also not thinking like a business. They may have some content that is going for them, working in the right way, but they're also mixing their business and their pleasure together. So like if half my posts are my girlfriend and then half my posts are my business, it's more of a personal page than like a hey, let's work together thing. I think that it's important for people to have a personal brand and absolutely have like their life on display if they want to, if they choose to. But if you're trying to have that personal element in it, you also got to be prepared for people to not want to see that personal element. So if you notice, I separated out Scoring Tech, which was traditionally always part of Joe Chris on YouTube and on Instagram, to its own platform this week. I did not want my composer content to be involved with, like my composer for composer content to be mixed with my composer for filmmaker content. And both have already been so much more successful separate than they have been together. Now, this next one might sound controversial, but a lot of composers are not ready for success on Instagram or YouTube or whatever their platform is. And this is not me saying they are not good enough. I would say there's a lot of composers better than me making worse content on these platforms. However, if they were to get 1 million views today with thousands of people reaching out to them, they wouldn't know what to do. I'll talk to you my personal story. I had a reel go viral, which we will look at, that brought me thousands of followers and lots of inbound requests. I was not prepared for that. My Instagram, my profile was a mess. My reel was like broken. I didn't even have like different reels for different genres that were like up to date. My reels were half a decade out of date. And it was a mess. I had no way to handle and sort and deal with the communication or even know like how to handle and sort and deal with all of that. And I got stressed and really overwhelmed. A lot of composers, if they hit it big on Instagram and something comes in for them, they may not be ready, and they should be ready, but this is a big mistake. They may not have all their materials up to date, in place, or a system on how to deal with this. I'm not sponsored, but I do know Sam. I've chatted with him once on Discord last week. But Realcrafter has been something I've been heavily getting into lately to solve this problem for me. This is not an endorsement, but I will be making some videos soon about it because I want to teach myself, and I will use it to teach you and to get deeper into it. But it seems to solve a lot of the problems I was having. And I hope it solves them for you. Another big one I see on Instagram is composers are paying to promote their posts, but they're not promoting good posts. This is not composer slander, but if you're pushing something that didn't do well to begin with, you're giving Facebook money and it's not really helping you. So your strategy really should be more to make more content rather than to pay for your content to be done, to be pushed more. Typically you want to have a post that has good organic potential, like it does really well on its own, and then you could throw some gas on the fire. But if there's no fire to throw gas on, you're just wasting gas. And perfectionism, everybody's favorite word. There's too many composers. I mean, we're artists, I get it, but there's too many of us who are just putting too much faith and too much effort into a high quality Instagram post. Let loose, relax, stop overthinking. Your content can just be your content. It doesn't have to be an Oscar-worthy short film. Your production value, it's always cool to have high production value, but not when it's stressing you out and not when it's stopping you from doing things. An important quote I like to say: anything worth doing is worth half-assing. If you're going to do something, it's better just to do it if you need to do it and not worry about it being perfect, because done is better than perfect. Perfect is the enemy of done. If you are phoning it in and you can do a lot better and you know you can do better, do better. Not a problem. But it's like brushing your teeth. It's better to brush your teeth once a week than never at all. And I think social media should be the same way. Like, even if you're not posting daily, post every once in a while. if you're going to jump into this idea of I'm posting 3 reels a day or 5 times a day or X amount a week, here's a little exercise I like to give that really will show you how hard it is. Open up Spotify and make a playlist called Song of the Day. And every day, you're not allowed to post a song for tomorrow, pre-prep. You have to do it that day. Choose one song to add to that playlist. It'll start off easy for a bit. And then you'll have days where you forget or weeks where you forget. And you'll realize how hard it is just to be consistent on something like that, especially if it's not a routine. And this is why people batch out content and schedule content in advance. And I highly recommend you learn how to batch content and schedule content in advance, because it will save you a lot of headaches. And instead of being an everyday struggle, it's a once a week thing or a once a month thing. I make all these content. And then you're not switching headspaces more often, and you're not wasting time when you could be composing. You could do it on a Sunday or a day off or after work. I'm gonna make 10 reels tonight. They don't have to be good reels. So I'm gonna make 10 reels and I'm gonna schedule them. So let's talk about some of my reels. Here are 4 reels that I have that I would say went semi-viral or semi-successful, or I'll talk about why they weren't. But last summer, I had a reel go viral for the first time. And it was when I was trying to just get numbers and just get a lot of followers and understand like how I can get followers. And I was hungry for followers before I kind of understood the difference between followers and engaged followers. This reel right here, linked below, You Have a Cute Face, was me handwriting something sweet that I thought would go viral. I was intentionally trying to go viral because I thought it was like something you could share easy. You have a cute face. Send this to your poogie to make their day. Like, it's all cutesy. Send it to the girl you think is cute. Send it to your friend. Send it to the homies. Just send it to somebody to make their day. And it has this sort of like in language, like a joke, because you have to know it, like how to read music in order to understand what it says. And it makes people feel quote unquote smart. Now, what's interesting, it got 2.1 million views, right? That's a lot of views for content. And it also got 941 comments. A lot of the comments are saying joking things like thanks, or arguing the solfege, or making fun of my breathing in the reel. But it engaged people. The bad handwriting was a bit of a trick I tried in order to get into rage bait people. And oh boy, did it work. People argue over my handwriting. People argue over it all. Yeah, but let's look at the picture all the way to the right. Profile activity. That's the number of followers I got from this reel. 2 million views, 200 followers. That is a very low conversion rate reel. And I was making this sort of content for a while, and I was realizing how not worth it was. Of those 200 followers, which 200 was amazing at the time for me, of those 200 followers, most of them were middle school and high school girls who played the flute or whatever. Like I would tap profiles just to see who's following me to get an idea of it was. And without fail, it was like high school class of 2037. And I was like, oh my God, this is not what I want. It's cool that I'm getting engagement, but no, like I want people to hire me. I don't care about this. Like it's nice and the numbers are cool, but it doesn't help me in the slightest. And they're not engaging with the rest of my content. They just like the handwritten music stuff. So that's something to be aware of. 2 million views. People would be very happy for that. And I was, but now I could care less. Let's check this one out. I started this reel with filmmakers. This wheel will save your life when working with a composer. And I had this wheel of emotion on the screen. Now, this was cool, but compared to the handwritten thing, the market potential is so much smaller. There is a way smaller gap of people who are filmmakers and that work with composers than someone who knows how to read sheet music and or has someone cute to send it to in their life, or just knows someone who reads sheet music. I'm targeting filmmakers and composers, but it is it's a much smaller niche, so it got smaller engagement. But let's take a look at this really quick. It has multiple hooks. It has my filmmakers, this will save your life, which is a huge, huge statement, but it's ear-catching. It also has the visual of the music wheel on it, which eye-catching, people may tap on it. And then I have a third thing, which looks like insider knowledge, the secret to getting a good film score out of your composer. Now we have 3 hooks working together to bring attention to this. Now this got me 600 followers, but also got 9.5 thousand saves. This is a tool that is used collaboratively for people. Like, I'm a director, I could send this to my composer. I'm a composer, I could send this to a director. I can save it for future use for myself and just refer to it. This is something that's very powerful. It's not even about me anymore. It's about other people using it as a collaboration tool between them. Now, let's look at that followers number here versus the saves. The saves on this reel are good because it's useful, valuable information for people. But if we look at the next one, this was authority content. Compared to the followers or any other, even the likes, I had a lot of saves. The saves are people who are saving it to refer back to later, but they're not engaging with it. Even the comments are low, the views are low, the watch time, the follows. There's useful information in it because people are saving, which means they're going to refer back to it. But there really wasn't much to talk about. There was no, hey, I'm going to send it to a friend. It was more like, thanks for the info. I'm putting it in my back pocket. Now, if I were here trying to like sell courses to filmmakers, film composers, and like build my authority, get them to trust me more, or if I wanted like composers to look at my content and be like, I need to buy his book. This is the kind of content I would make. I would make authority content because I don't care if it goes viral. I want to take the people I already have to and build their trust with me. So this kind of thing is cool, but I would need to do something like this targeted towards filmmakers instead and get them to hire me from it. So that's the balancing act a lot of film composers struggle with is, am I making content for composers or am I making content for filmmakers? And a filmmaker has different needs and different wants and desires than a composer. So if I go back to that other slide, a director can use this. A director can talk about this. They are able to save this material and use it on their own outside of me, but they saved it. And if they come back to it, they're seeing me again. So it's another touch point on the rule of 7. And even if I got low followers on this reel, I am now in their lexicon and they are in their knowledge, and they might come back for something else, or another one of my reels might get fed to them in the future with authority content focused on them. And they'll eventually be like, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. He would be a great collaborator to work with. Maybe not for me, but maybe for a friend. And that's the goal. You want people to know you. They want people to like you. And then at that point, they will hire you or buy from you. And you want to build your funnel to showcase that. So in this one, I have what I call top of funnel on the top left. That means it is the most mass appeal, wide range type of content. It is less filtered than the third post, but it has the widest reach. Top of funnel content is important if you're trying to grow your numbers and grow your account. But you got to remember, the top of the funnel gets filtered down and down and down to smaller and smaller till it gets to your niche. So this one is way wider and I have much more range than this one. And then this one's even more specific. Now, the problem here is there are 3 different niches. So if this case study with the You Have a Q's Face, if this reel was something mega viral and mega mass appealing to filmmakers, then this one would have had so much more potential, which means this one would have had potential and filmmakers would have hired me from it. Or they would have felt like super comfortable hiring me, because if I get 1 million eyes on me, 750,000 stay for me, and then I slip this in and maybe 500,000 are like, damn. Well, suddenly I took this funnel and I filtered out the people that I'm trying to work with. And that's the way a marketing funnel works, is you want to have a wide net and you want to slowly gauge it in to niche them down to work with you. Now, the most successful reel I've had to date is this one. This was definitely the most viral reel I've had. It's the first reel I could say that definitely had an impact on my life. Gave me so much already from this, and I'm loving it. And it really ignited my fire recently for Instagram, which is a platform I wasn't planning to work on. But I was helping my friends with their content, and I had a little day, like a demonstration day of how to make reels go viral and blah, blah, blah. And I made this 2 days later. I was just like, oh shit, and it blew up. Anyway, this was outlier content. One of my friend's sisters works with a music producer who made a reel that was like, Jack has Sabrina. and they were going through the different producers and girl pop. Dan has Chapel. And I'm like, oh, that's a really cool format, and I could put my spin on it for film scoring. It was an outlier content for her, definitely, and then for me, same thing. So see how I took that one piece of content and twisted it to be film score niche versus music producer niche? Now, when I was testing this, what's nice is it got me the right audience. It's not middle schoolers or high schoolers. There's a lot of working professionals who've been reaching out to me because of this reel. Let's talk about that. It was an opportunity to engage. This reel puts 3 director and composer duos. It goes, Chris has Hans. Ryan has Ludwig. Steven Spielberg has John Williams. And then I'm like, but you could have me. And people thought it was funny because it was a very funny picture of me in my studio. And people were watching, they were engaged, and then suddenly they're hit with my beautiful shining face and being like, do you want to work together? And all of these people were so moved to reach out, to comment, to get in touch, and to be my friend. I've made a lot of friends from this, which is something I want to talk about in a sec. But yeah, this reel had that. I was asking for connections. Now, let's look at the hook really quick. When you're scrolling and you see Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer, you're going to stop if you like who they are. It's not a me. You're not seeing my face. You're seeing people whose face you already have. And then it quickly, within a second and a half, switched to John Williams and Steven Spielberg. And then it went to Ryan Coogler and Ludwig Göransson. And then it went to me. So you were escalating. And what's interesting is I tried this reel multiple ways with different composer and director duos. And it just made so much sense that the one that has Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer, 2 of the most talked about names in film right now, went the most viral. That's the hook. That was a huge hook. And it was engagement baiting. Christopher doesn't have Hans right now. He has Ludwig, and so many of the comments are correcting me. But a lot of the comments are just like, hey, reach out. Let's be friends. Blah, blah, blah. And if you look at the views now, it got a quarter of the views that the handwritten music thing did. But the number of follows, oh my god, incredible. And then directly the number of money, the amount of money it's brought me just from this one reel, more than we've ever dreamed from that handwritten music thing. Absolutely more. Even just 1 gig was more than that. And I got, I think, 12 or 13 gigs out of this so far. And obviously I'm going to make other content and do more, but this has kind of been really eye-opening for me. Now, I mentioned I tried it different ways. There's a feature on Instagram called Trial Reels, which allows you to post content and it doesn't go to your followers. It only goes out to new people. So doing that, I tried different orders of this post, different songs on the post, different composers, and one of them popped off. So then I published it to my main followers, and suddenly it really popped off. But you can use trial reels, 1, as a way to test content ideas, but 2, to put content out there that your followers don't need to see. Your followers don't need to see top of funnel content like this. If I were to post this reel again, which I probably will because it's a template, I can just do it again, and I don't need to annoy the 2,400 who followed me because of this reel. They won't even see the new version. But one more thing on templates. Look all the way on the left of the screen. You see a thing that says Get Inspired on Edits? You can actually tap that, and it'll pull this template up in the Edits app. And you could swap in your own pictures and your own text. Like, it's not hard to use someone else's template and take content from someone else and put your own spin on it. It's 1 button and then adding your own stuff. You don't need to re-edit things. You don't need to do things. There are templates that Instagram gives you built in that are designed to be pleasing and viral. All you need to do is drag and drop your content. And then you could post it as trial reels and try different hooks and try different things. But don't go crazy. Don't overthink. Just put some stuff out there. So one last thing that I do want to talk about. One last thing I do want to talk about is friends and friendship potential. I mentioned this has been a big networking device for me, and a lot of my friends have come through Instagram. Stuff like this is why I don't mind making content and doing things and reaching out to people. I have made so many of my best friends online. I am a COVID guy, COVID kid, I guess you could say. But most of my best friends I've never met in person. Most of the people that are my best friends in person are people I met online. You don't need to limit yourself to the bubble in the town around you or the networking events you attend. And you don't need to limit your contribution to this world of the art you put out. You can also make stuff for people that will help people, and you can share your love of what you do with people and inspire people, and you can do really amazing things with content that I think a lot of composers and a lot of people overlook. There's no shame in being a content creator. Content doesn't need to be a dirty word. It actually can be an amazing, amazing experience. It can be life changing for you, not just like financially, but just socially. And you are an artist at the end of the day. Like, yes, your music is your main form of art, but content is a way to get out there in front of people, and it's a way to spread whatever that message that your art is. You can put it into your content and you could spread it without even having to make content about music. And I think that goes back to a lot of composers not knowing who they are or what they're trying to say musically, which they'll get there and they need to figure that out. They'll get there, and we could talk about that in a different thing. But social media is very much a way for me to spread love of music and love of movies and just love in general and try to help as many people as I possibly can. So I hope this helps. I hope you found this somewhat inspiring. You're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you if I can. And just go forth and make some good content. Just don't become a full-time content creator. Remember, the music is important, but so is sharing your music and sharing your message. Anyway, thank you for listening. I am Joe Chris, and to the one person who popped in during my live stream, thank you.